Hi everyone and welcome to this new episode of Media Talks. I'm delighted to be joined by Dina Elrayyes. She's the VP of Content and Creative Director at Ascential. Dina, very nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here too. So Dina, tell the audience a little bit about who you are, a bit of your backstory, and then I'm going to ask you some questions that I really want the answer to.
Brilliant. So my name is Dina Reyes. I work for Ascential PLC, which is the parent company of two big brands, Cannes Lions, which serves the creative marketing and advertising industry. It's a big event with lots of arms, including advisory, digital products. And then we also have Money 2020, which is the biggest fintech event. And that has various events around the world. So we have a US edition in Vegas, we have an edition in Amsterdam, and next week I will be going out to Bangkok for our first Asian edition of Money 2020. And that serves the whole kind of fintech industry. And while I work in these two industries within Ascential, I'm not really an expert in either, kind of an expert in creativity. I run our in-house creative team, our in-house creative production team. So I have a team of 15 people who create primarily video content. I also have a dual role. My second role is as creative director of the PLC. So I take care of how Ascential PLC shows up to our people. So doing a lot of kind of employee initiatives, but also to our investors and the investor market, which is quite an interesting place to be a creative director, because I think it tends to be neglected. So we're trying to be quite different in that sense and make our company stand out by being quite a design-led and aesthetically conscious company.
Wow, you do a lot in a day.
I am very tired at the end of the day.
There's a lot of hats there. Let's unpick that for a little bit. Let's just start with a little bit of information on your backstory. So I know obviously people can check you out on LinkedIn as well, kind of like where you've come from and how you've worked your way up. But for those that don't know who you are, where did you start? How did you kick off your career?
So I moved to the UK. I spent the last chunk of my childhood in Jordan. I moved to the UK to come to university. I went to St. Martin's, which for anybody that wants to study arts or design, it is the most incredible place in the world. I mean, I learned so much from it, and I still have so many friends who are incredibly successful, and I'm very jealous of from my days there. But I think what's so great about it is that you go there and they make you feel that you could take over anything. You could go to any job. I never felt subconscious about applying to, like as a freshman, applying to one of the kind of the big companies. And when I left, I applied for a job at MTV. It was a graduate scheme. I know MTV is not what it used to be, but at that point in time, it was kind of their peak reality TV.
It was
So
the
when
Mecca,
they were
wasn't
doing,
it? Yeah.
oh my God, it was the best. So it was when they were doing The Hills, they were doing Laguna Beach. They were kind of, I mean, the stuff that MTV did with reality TV is just second to none. And I still look at some of that programming and I still think it stands
Agreed.
miles above. Oh, so good. So I got to go there and it was awesome and I loved it. And I worked primarily on the international events. So working on I Love MTV, I sat with a creative team. I worked on I Love MTV, which at the time we were doing in Malta, the European Music Awards that we did in Liverpool, and then doing lots of different activations around these reality TV shows. And I was there I was doing this, the graduate scheme was about 6 months. I stayed on for another 6 months. But that was kind of at the time where it started to get wobbly at MTV. And unfortunately, they folded the team that I was on. But they were really good. And because it was part of Viacom, which again is a huge parent company, they moved me over to Nickelodeon. And I know there's all this stuff coming out about Nickelodeon at the moment with the news, which is not great. But my experience there was also not the best. And I was there for, I would say, about a month, and I just knew that I didn't want to be there. I think the culture, the environment, where at MTV it was very much like a family, and everyone was kind of mucking in together. When I was at Nickelodeon, it was very hierarchical, and I was at the bottom of the food chain, and it
Mm,
was not fun being down
mm,
there.
mhm.
Um, but then what happened? I had a friend from St. Martin's who had worked at this company called WGSN, which at the time, sorry, there's a lot of layers to
No,
this.
this is interesting. Go on, no, carry on. I love it.
She worked for WGSN, which is a company that we used to own at Ascential. It's an amazing company. It's the world's biggest fashion trend forecaster. And I was telling her that, oh, yeah, it's not right for me. I got to leave. It's just not the right fit. And she was like, listen, we own this other company. The group owns this other company called Cannes Lions. It's this event that happens in Cannes. They're looking for, my background is as a graphic designer. They're looking for a graphic designer. Like, why don't you apply? And I did. And I went there. I went for the interview. No idea what Cannes Lions was. Did as much research as I possibly could. My conclusion was it's like the film festival but for advertising. Went and did the interview, met four people. I was still kind of like I'd only had one other job ever, and I went and met these people, and yeah, there's like four of them in the interview, and I was like kind of stumbled my way through it. I came out of it thinking, oh my god, I totally fumbled that, but I was so intimidated by it. But they ran me on the way home, and they were like, can you start tomorrow?
Wow.
And yeah, and it was really good. And then I've just kind of had a history in this company, which I don't know, like I could start to get into that, but I don't know if that's useful at this point.
I think it'd be good to know like how the structure is, because you obviously you've got the canned line thing, and then you've got the money 2020, which to me seems on the as an outsider so contradictory in what they do and who they are. So how does
Yeah.
that work together? Because I know I mean you were a video director as well, weren't you, right? And then you've kind of worked your way up.
Yeah.
Ha-
So when I was at Cannes Lion, there was only probably about 25 people in the company. So working on Cannes Lions at the moment, there's probably near 200. So
Wow.
that trajectory is like gone massive. But also the parent company has changed so much. So while I was at Cannes Lions, I started in this junior designer role. I then went into um, I eventually went into midweight. I eventually took over the creative team. I eventually took over digital and creative. And then when the group IPO'd, oh God, I think it was like in 2018, we IPO'd. The CEO at the time, who was Duncan, he was ex-Sky, and he always had this idea around wanting to have an in-house production agency. And they'd asked me if I could put together a proposal and pitch for what that would look like, because I was the person that was most doing it in the group at the time. And I did, and he handed over the keys. And
Wow.
yeah, and so that was, so we kind of built this like in-house production company at a group level, and then we kind of acted like an agency within the group. So, and I love the idea of being in-house. I've been speaking to a lot of people about being in-house versus agency, and I kind of think you're one or the other. I feel very strongly about that. And I think that I am 100% an in-house person for various reasons. Um, but we started that, and yeah, and it's been a wobbly ride, and it's taken me a while to find my feet in that role, and how do you service a group with so many, like you say, quite diverse
Mm,
products. But for me, it's very much at the heart of it is I am a process led person, and the people that I hire are process led people. Like, I think if I'm doing a piece of work for I don't know, a, a pharmaceutical company, or I'm doing work for a high end fashion company, to me the actual product doesn't make so much a difference. What I enjoy most is the process to get there. So what's the problem? What are we trying to answer? And kind of unpicking that. I know some people are very driven of I'm a fashion person. I get fashion. I live in fashion. I 100%. I want to be a fashion expert, and that's how I want to live and breathe it. I've never been that kind of person. I mean, the some of the stuff we work on, yes, it's super sexy, and maybe some is perceived not so much. But I've never, that's never really affected my drive. And I actually think, and I say this to my team a lot of the time, and some of the younger ones, and when they start off, like for me, the best and most interesting work is the stuff that we get to do internally. So, I mean, we're a company now. We're 700 people. The company, we were a much bigger company about a year ago, but we split out, and part of the company got sold to Omnicom.
Mhm.
Um, but so we do a lot of internal work, and I'll get really jazzed when like the legal team will come to me and be like, Dina, we need to educate everybody on like anti-bribery. And I'll be like, yes, I love this brief. Like we can have so much fun with this. Like, are you kidding me? And I'll go to my team, I'll be like, guys, the legal team has come to us and they have this brief, and everybody will roll their eyes. I'll be like, no, it's so great, because you get to play a lot more when you're doing it, things internally. There's not the layers of
Yeah.
like sign off and all of this. So yeah, for me, the product is kind of irrelevant. It's about the process, and how much fun can we have with the process of it.
I love how energized and vibrant you are when you're talking about what you do. Like you just come alive. Like it's almost like you're in your own little world. And just like you reflecting on your career and how you've got to where you've got, can you see the milestones of what you've done? Like do you ever look back and go, wow, like I've done that?
Yeah. um I guess I don't look back much. I also think this is the female thing where you don't, I think in general, I think we're a gender that's just really terrible about patting ourselves on the
Yeah,
back.
yeah, I knew you were going to say
um
that. We do
I'm
though,
awful
we do.
at it.
I don't know why.
Awful at it. Like I was telling somebody the other day, we were doing our end of year reviews recently, and I don't like to gender stereotype, but you can't help but look at the patterns. And I'll sit there with like the male members of my team, and they'll be like, I did this and I did that and blah blah blah, and look at all this amazing stuff that I did. And then I'll sit with the female members, and they'll be like, I know I could have done better on this. I'm going to try and do better on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mad. And I don't know why it's like that, but I'm becoming much more conscious of it. And I'm personally trying to be better myself, because I want to, I want people to mirror that as well. So, yes, sorry, I went completely off topic.
No, no,
Um,
I like that. I definitely think that that's a thing. Like, I mean, obviously, I interview. So, obviously, as you know, I run a recruitment agency for the industry, but I used to be a producer myself. So, spent 20 years in it as a creative. And the difference between, and I don't like to gender stereotype either, but now I'm a mum to a girl, to my own daughter, I'm very conscious of how I talk, how she perceives me, how she perceives herself. So, she'll make little comments like, oh, I can't do that though, mummy, because I'm a girl. And I'm like, what? What don't you
yeah,
like? Whereas before, maybe I might
yeah,
have accepted that for myself, but I'm like,
yeah,
no, 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 no. You can do absolutely anything. But I see it all the time. I speak to candidates all day, and the women are, like you said, much more self-depreciating, or not. Not they're very, very, very humble, but to a degree where I would say it's not necessarily always healthy. Whereas the men are like, I smashed this target and I can do this, and no, it's fine. Like, give me a week and I'm in it. The women
yeah.
not so much.
Yeah, yeah. I remember sitting in a review with a boss of mine years ago, and we have this ranking system, and it's 1 to 4, and it's like this kind of typical corporate system where like nobody really gets a 4, like only like a couple of people in the entire business might get a 4. And he sat down with me and he said, I'm thinking about even either giving you a 3 or a 4, but I haven't made up my mind. What do you think? And I said, give me a 3, because I think I can push myself harder. And I came out of that. And I just thought, if I was a man, I would have never done that.
Did
I
he give
would have
you
been
a
like,
three?
I'm a 4. He gave me a 3. And but the following year when we had to do the review again, I'm like, I'm a 4 this time. So let's go.
Good for you. Good for you. So let's just talk a little bit about where the business is at the moment. So I don't want to be negative because we're in 2024 and 2023 is behind us, but how did you navigate 2023? Was it a challenge for you? Was it a challenge for you personally? I mean, it was probably the toughest year I've ever known in the industry, and that is definitely rippling still, I would say, into the first quarter of this year. But keen to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we're a public company, so our performance. I mean, we did our results last week, so anybody can kind of look at what we did. But we had a landmark year for Cannes Lions, so for that event, just it smashed every target. It kind of it had set. And I think what's really interesting about Cannes is the diversity of the people that are now attending. Whilst when I first joined, oh God, I joined the business in 2009. It was still called the Cannes Lions International Advertising Festival, and it was just ad people. Whilst now, not only are we getting the ad people, we're getting like the big marketers from the P&Gs, the Unilevers, the Coca-Colas, all of them, the big tech companies. And now we're actually seeing quite a big kind of delegation coming from the creator community and the kind of the creator economy. We actually, yesterday, we just launched a creator pass for Cannes Lions. So we are seeing a kind of a big growth area for that. So I think it's really interesting that it's probably about 10, 12 years ago, they changed their name from the International Advertising Festival to the International Festival of Creativity. And we are increasingly seeing that businesses, corporations, everyone are doubling down on the creativity because they really see the value of what that brings to their business. So yes, the people who actually make the creative, so the advertisers working with the marketers, will always be at the core of that product and that event, but the ecosystem around them are also all attending because they know that they need to be part of that conversation because the benefits that creativity can come to their business. So last year was a great year for us. I don't know, well, we won't be commenting on this year yet because we still haven't gotten through to the event, but it's looking very positive from every angle that we're seeing so far. In terms of Money 2020 as well, it's a growing business year on year. It's doing better. Really excited to see what's going to happen next week in Asia, in Bangkok. I think what's really interesting about Money 2020 and their strategic approaches, they have these like regional hub events. I mean, they are placed regionally, but they still attract kind of global they attract global delegations that come in, but they do them in these interesting places. So they don't do them in financial hubs. They do them close to financial hubs because, so we didn't do it in Singapore, we did it in Bangkok because we want everybody to come and be totally immersed in the experience and not be like, I'm just going to pop back to the office, or I'm just going to go meet this client, or I'm just going to go do that. It's just like, no, if you come, you need to be present, you need to be part of this. And yeah, I mean, it's been since pandemic. I mean, Asia has, it's had its challenges, specifically with China, and those kind of that region hasn't come back to our events like all the other regions have. So we really wanted to kind of re-engage that market. So yeah, super excited about going back in there. But yeah, and then we made some interesting acquisitions. So we acquired Contagious, which is another kind of big B2B company within the creative and advertising world. And that's kind of part of Cannes Lions now as well. And, everyone's, the leadership team, our M&A, they're kind of got their ear to the ground, looking at kind of other products that they can add to either Money 2020 or Cannes Lions to expand that ecosystem, because we're not an events company. That's not kind of how we see ourselves. We've kind of got these events that are kind of the tent poles of the industries in which we serve in, but we've kind of got so much attached to it. So on Lions, we've got Contagious, we've got Work, which was an acquisition that happened a few years back, which is all about marketing effectiveness. We've got an advisory arm, we've got the digital product that goes along with it. And then on Money 2020, we're going to be looking at doing something similar. We introduced 20-fold, which is a startup that was actually, the team here came up with it and launched that last year. And that's all about connecting different people from the fintech ecosystem together to kind of make these super interesting products. So I know that from a lot of the creative industry and the production industry have had their challenges, but it's actually, yeah, I think we've been quite good with our strategy over the last year, and the value of the products we have are very imminent within the industries that we operate in. So it's been a good year for us. But in terms of, if we look at like production, so if I just look at like what I do in production, this past year, more than any other year, I have been getting people reach out to me on LinkedIn being like, I'm looking for work, I've lost my job. When we've posted for jobs, we've gotten more applications than we ever have in the past. I mean, I hired a designer at the end of last year, and I had to, after like a week of posting, I had to take it down because we were just flooded. And that's never really happened before. And so, yeah, I think the production, the creative industries, I think the people that work in them, I think it's been a challenge, but I'm hoping, I mean, from what we're seeing and the engagement we're getting on Can Lines, because that's where most of these people, that's kind of the industries that most of those people will work in, it's looking positive. So I think the grass is going to be greener on the other side for those roles.
I think so. We're already seeing signs of things picking up this year. It's just, I think the industry has been through a lot with COVID, and then we had a post-COVID boom, which was great, but obviously a lot of people overhired, and there was a lot of kind of like, it was just this explosion of talent and commissions. And then I think this year, last year was really, really hard, and I sort of feel like there's been lots of people, because obviously I speak to talent all day, and some people are just kind of fed up of riding the wave. You know, you kind of, there's peaks and troughs with every industry, but I do feel like the creatives have really been through a lot in the last few years, and we're seeing a lot of people that are leaving. So a lot of people that are choosing another industry, seemingly a more stable one. And I think it's a shame, because I think if you're a creative, like the way your brain works is so unique. To lose the talent to another trade is such a shame.
I totally agree. But I mean, if I was going to give any advice to these kind of people, you know, I get people messaging me. I don't want my LinkedIn to be flooded now, but you know, reach out to people. Just send an email. Just say, listen, what I think you're doing is interesting. Go to events. I mean, I try and go to as many events as I can, and I'll just try and speak to people, because it's not just about like meeting people and building up my network. I've always been totally rubbish at that, but just the things that people say to me will spark ideas, will make me think, oh, we're not really thinking about that. Maybe we should be thinking about that. Or I could connect people, and you know, I connect a lot of people together, and you know, I see, obviously it always feels good to be able to do that, but it also pays back, because that person will someday call me and be like, Dina, I know you were after this, or you wanted more information about this, or blah blah blah, and I'm able to get it to you. And I just think I think as an industry, we should just look out for each other and consider all of us as like peers together. And that's kind of how I try and treat it. And I try and meet as many people. I try and meet them in real life.
Yes.
As much as possible. And yeah, I think there's just some really great stuff out there. There's some really cool events, people that are doing things for free. I mean, even like as a junior person, or just like a fresh grad or whatever, just go on meetups, you know, meetup.com, be like, I want to just meet other people that do video or art or whatever it is, or live in London. Just
Yeah.
go and meet people.
I agree. I think, I think sometimes we lose sight since COVID anyway of the fact that we are that human connection. I mean, I went and met someone for lunch yesterday, and the value that we both got out of just sitting there having a cup of tea, as opposed to, because we were going to just do, a Zoom call, and they're great and they have their value. Like we're doing this podcast now. Like I feel like I've got to know you quite well in the last sort of 40 minutes or so, but there is nothing like meeting face to face. There just isn't. And there's always this
100%.
debate, right? Do you go back to the office? Do you? And I personally think like a nice hybrid way of working. Like I think our industry would have been the last to have ever adopted this fluidity that we have now. That just seems to be accepted. Um,
Yeah.
Having said all that, I think that human connection and sitting side by side. I mean, I will actively go to London. I don't live in London. I live an hour south of London, but I will actively go into town. Sometimes even just on my own, and sit there in a restaurant or in a cafe because I know I'm going to bump into someone or I'm going to chat to someone, and I come
Yeah.
out just feel more lifted. There's something
Yeah.
about being with people.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I do that as well. Like I have two small children and they hate it. But like if we go around like a museum or whatever, and I'll see somebody like sketching or looking at something, I'll always go up to them and be like, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" Or I'll try and like just start a conversation. I always do that in airports as well. My kids hate it. They're just like, "Why are you speaking to strangers?"
We just
Um,
randomly go up and
but
talk to them.
yeah, I'll like see something. I'll like see some like a woman there that's wearing just some cool trainers or whatever. I'll go and like speak to her and be like, "Oh, that's cool," or just want to know more about it. I don't know. I've met some really interesting people that way, and I don't know. I just yeah, I'm just a really curious person, and I feed off other people's energy, so I get a lot out of it. I weirdly, I kind of think I'm also an introvert. Like I do like I do like my alone time. I like to be in my own space, but I just know that I try like I've not always been like this. And over the years I've kind of tried to force myself to kind of be more outgoing and speak to people, and um I'm in a place where I can be I can be an introvert when I need to be, and I could be outgoing and get that energy and feed off those people to kind of fuel my drive and my ideas and my thinking. Um, I don't know.
I never would have said you were an introvert. Sat there with a
Oh
nice,
my
bright,
God.
colourful top, and very energetic, and yeah. Anyway, just before we wrap up, tell me what's next for you, Dina? Like you personally, what are you hoping to achieve? Are you a big believer in goals? Do you have them?
Oh my God. I always try and set goals and then I never do them. So, uh,
That's because you're a
no,
mum. You've got too many things going on.
yeah. Um, no, my next big thing is AI and understanding that and how it's going to affect our industry. We have various people within the group that are looking at it, but I just feel like personally I need to understand it. I need to wrap my head around it. My background is a graphic designer, so I am a very technically hands-on person. So I am going into softwares like Runway, which is kind of the big one for us. ChatGPT, obviously, I mean, everybody should kind of be looking at that, using that. How does that kind of affect our world? Really excited for when they open up Sora and what that's going to look like for us. But also just trying to watch and consume as many videos as I can to understand what's going to happen and how it's going to affect us. I just think that education with AI is so key at the moment. And for me, I put about 3 hours aside every week now where I am doing research or I'm playing within different softwares. But yeah, I think anybody in our industry, whatever level you are, this is something that you totally need to be immersing yourself in and educating yourself on it. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Agreed, agreed. That was a really great place to end it there. Dina, I've really appreciated your time today. It's been really, honestly, really interesting. Um,
Oh, thank you.
and I'm hoping that you're not going to get flooded on LinkedIn now with people contacting you any more than you have already. But I'll be really excited to see how things pan out for you over the next sort of 12 months. Got some really exciting things going on.
Great. Thank you so much,
It
Cheryl.
was
This
a
was great.
pleasure. Thank you,
All
Dina.
right. Take
Bye.
care.